want to thank everybody who's been with me, my Xbox clan.
When Kobe going back to play Madison Square Garden, and he's like, hey, hook me up with dinner with Heath Ledger.
Like Russell Westbrook, that was a great feat the other day. I couldn't even tweet it out.
It's Coach Frank Vogel here, full of enthusiasm and positive energy.
Well, first of all, you don't smoke peyote.
And there was a couple games where I was at a hookah lounge. That's the truth. I wasn't smoking hookah, but I was there.
There was a time when the Israelites were wandering in the desert and all of a sudden bread came down from heaven. That's kind of what today feels like to have KCP join.
Welcome back to Bulls vs. Blazers. You can find us as always on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere else you can get podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review. Subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/BullsVBlazers. I am Sean Highkin. With me as always, Erik Gundersen.
Yo.
How about this chaotic? I mean, we're what 25 hours out from the draft, and this is already like the most chaotic offseason that maybe we've ever had, and there hasn't even started free agency yet.
Yeah, we are in some wild times, a little unforeseen. I didn't think we were going to start the James Harden. I mean, we did talk about it earlier in the season. I didn't think it was going to come this soon, but it is here. Not even
I'm
waiting
not even
for the season
talking
to
about
start.
that. I'm talking about the Bruce Brown for Dazana and Musa trade that started it all off. I was just like, okay, it's lit now. It's lit, fam, as the kids say.
Yeah, well, I think the Schroeder trade was really what kicked things off.
Yeah,
was the Schroeder trade by the Lakers, which
did we talk about that one in the last episode?
I don't think so, because we did our last episode on the weekend, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it was like, it happened, I think, Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's a fine trade, I think, for both sides.
Yeah, no, I think it's very fine. I mean, obviously, OKC gets Danny Green on expiring, and they get a shot to draft another young player in this draft. And they get, for the Lakers, they get an upgrade at guard because it looks like Rondo's going to leave. There's a really good chance, I think, that Avery Bradley's going to leave. And so, and then KCP's a free agent who I think is going to come back, but you never know. And they get Schroeder, who has experience carrying the load for an offense. He ran 400 and something pick and rolls last season. Nobody else other than LeBron, Rondo ran 100, and that was the second closest person on the Lakers last year when it came to running pick and rolls. So just like the fact that they have someone that can soak up possessions for LeBron is such a key. Like that's just perfect for them. So I think it's a great deal for the Lakers, especially.
They're going from Rondo to German Rondo, as he was called when the Hawks drafted him.
That's right. That was the comparison. I remember watching him at his Hoop Summit practices with the World Team, and the World Team practices at Hoop Summit are ones that NBA personnel can be at all the time because there's no like amateurism restrictions on international guys. And Schroeder blew everyone away, and everyone was calling him, Rondo. And he does have, his arms are super long, and he can be a pest on defense in the same way that Rondo can. And he's younger, he's quicker, he's got a lot of pep to his game, and he can get to the basket, he can shoot it a little bit, and he's also, I think, an underrated defender. And I think he basically gives you everything that all the best parts of Avery Bradley and, a lot of the best parts of Rondo, except for the brain, of course.
Do the Lakers have their full mid-level?
I believe they do. Yeah.
Or are they going to be, because they're going to have to give Davis a new deal. But so after that, they have the full, so that means they could sign, I don't know who they're going to sign, but they could sign somebody. So it's going to be a different Lakers roster outside of those two.
Yeah, it's not going to be Jay Crowder. I know that Jay Crowder's a guy that's like a lot of people are targeting with mid-levels. I know Jeremy Grant.
And LeBron don't really like each other very much.
No, and he doesn't really fit. I don't think he's intuitive enough as a player to be able to play with LeBron, which is like not it's a system unto itself, but it's not quite rigid as some other systems are. Like it doesn't have like a real as much of like a real form, if you will. And like I think Crowder has done better in places where there's a real system, whether it's Utah, Boston, Miami, And I don't think he's going to do all that well as just like a guy standing in the corner for the Lakers, So I think maybe Jeremy Grant is an option for them, and I think Gallo as well. I mean, they're going to need, I think, another extra scorer because LeBron is going to be a little tired to start the season, and I think Anthony Davis as well. I haven't really talked about it that much, and I don't think a lot of people have. He is very young, and he probably will bounce back, but a lot of people were saying that he was playing hurt during the finals, and he carried a massive load for them as well. And I'm sure he's going to be a little gassed. And this is the first time that he's ever done this. At least LeBron has experience playing to the last game of the season. I think it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how Davis reacts. And I don't think it's a guarantee that he's going to be like all the way 100% by the time the season starts. So getting some extra scoring, I think, in the front court would help.
Gallinari's the guy that I have been thinking about as somebody that the Lakers would. That they would, and I think you and I have talked about that on here before, that he's somebody that I don't think the money is going to be there for him. I mean, I have heard that the Heat are in on him like they were when when they were almost traded for him at the deadline. So that's going to be something, I guess, to monitor, but like then the Heat also have to re-sign Dragic. So there's just a kind of a lot going on there. And then I guess like the Celtics still have to figure out what is going on with Gordon Hayward. He might opt out. He might get traded somewhere. They almost got Drew Holiday in a trade. They came so close, like Danny Ainge always does.
Well, and now there's rumors too that they might get it. Like, although James Harden, the James Harden thing is happening. There's Philly and Brooklyn are the two big rumors, but then there's Boston that a lot of people aren't talking about. They have contracts that would make it easy to do in Kemba and Gordon Hayward, and Hayward is expiring.
I would hold out for Jaylen Brown if I was
Houston.
Houston.
Yeah. You have to do that. You have to get Jaylen Brown as well. I think it's kind of just a starting point, but you do all, because if you get James Harden on the Celtics with Jason Tatum, there's going to be a lot of free agents that are really good that will want to play for you. You know what I mean? Like, that's just going to be an attractive group if you have Tatum and Harden together. And you keep Marcus Smart too. I mean, the Celtics become maybe the favorite in the East if that happens. Like, I mean, obviously Brooklyn, it feels like the balance of power in the East is kind of going to shift no matter what happens with this, as long as Harden does actually get traded. Because it seems like the East is where he's going to go. We haven't heard any rumors really about anywhere in the West, at all, really.
And I'm not sure really where here's the thing with Harden is it's just, as much as he's a top 5 player in the league, an MVP candidate, it's just hard to find a team for him to get traded to, because A, he makes so much money that, teams are going to have to match salaries. B, it has to be a team that's good enough that trading for him makes them like a title favorite, and that has enough to give back and still be as good. Because I mean, with Russ, it's just whatever Houston can do to get off the money. With Harden, you want to actually get stuff back. You want to get, like, if Drew Holiday got back 3 first-round picks and a pick swap, like, you need to get back more than that.
Did he get 2 pick swaps? 2 pick swaps?
I
thought it was 2. I thought it was 2 pick swaps.
It might have been 2. It might have been 2.
I think it's 2. I think it's 2.
So if that's what Drew Holiday on an expiring deal is getting you, then Harden, James Harden
okay,
should
but you can't. Okay, but Milwaukee's desperate. That has to be factored into the equation. You have to be as desperate as Milwaukee to be doing that. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't know if Brooklyn is that desperate, and I don't know if Boston's that desperate either.
And if I'm Houston,
or Philly,
I don't think Philly's even really in. I've heard that Daryl wants to give the Simmons Embiid thing a try. I could see them maybe if they struggle.
He does love him though.
Yeah,
I mean, he wrote a damn letter to him in the Houston Chronicle. Like,
I know.
Like it, and obviously we know that Embiid and Simmons don't like each other. Like, that is like pretty clear. And we all know that it's probably not going to get any better with Doc Rivers in the house, because he hasn't really dealt with internal conflicts on his team particularly well.
I think that a Sixers thing would happen more at the deadline if Houston doesn't trade him before camp, which they still might not. They might just tell Harden, look, we'll find a trade for you at some point if you really still want out, but we're not in any rush to do it right now. You've got 2 years left on your deal plus a player option. Like, they don't have to trade him right now if they don't have an offer that they like.
Don't. They shouldn't feel like it's burning in their pocket and they have to do it right now.
They shouldn't settle for like Spencer Dinwiddie and Jared Allen or whatever. Like,
yeah, it's like LeVert, Allen. I mean, if you could do LeVert, Allen, Harris, Dinwiddie, and Allen, and 2 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps, I would do that if I'm Houston.
I would need more picks. Which
I'm giving. They're getting 4.
Yeah, I'd still need more.
So do the Drew Holiday then. Do the 3 picks and 2 pick which is the Anthony Davis as well. The 3 picks and 2 pick swaps.
How do we feel like this is going to affect the vibes
in Brooklyn?
Yeah,
I think it's going to be great for everyone except for Kyrie Irving. Maybe Kyrie won't care. And Wendy made a good point on the Hoop Collective or on the Low Post, whatever, the other day that they were cool when they played on Team USA, 4 years ago now. But, liking a guy is one thing, like going to the office and like having the responsibilities that you thought you would have taken away from you I don't know how long that's going to last. Because as much as Kyrie talks about how basketball like isn't everything to him, it definitely means a lot to him. I don't know, because James Harden, if he goes there, like it's going to be the James Harden show, and Kyrie's going to be like in like the CJ McCollum role for the Nets,
that is not what he signed up for, and I don't think that's going to go well.
No, he just did all these moves and forced his way to Brooklyn to be the number 1 creator with Kevin Durant and show that like he could be Steph Curry, he could be, the best player on a championship team or the lead ball handler on a championship team. And that's also his hometown team. Like, he's from New Jersey. Like, he grew up right close to where the Nets played. Like, I think him joining the Nets meant something to him. I think that was another reason why he went there. And like, I just don't, I don't see how this doesn't like sour him at least a little bit. I know that I saw that Scoop B reported that a source close to Irving said that it's not true that he's, feels any type of way about it or feels negatively about it, but
the Scoop Man actually is connected to Kyrie.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's important to note. He does have connections with Kyrie's camp, so I believe it when Scoop says it. And Scoop also covered the Nets for a long time, so like he knows that. And so, I mean, if you're the Nets or if you're the Rockets and you get 4 pretty good rotation players and a guy in LeVert and a guy in Dinwiddie who could both carry your team and maybe be borderline all-star-ish. I mean, not in the West, but like their production could get there. You know what I mean? Like they could be averaging 20, 25 a game, I think, if you gave them the ball enough. And then you get the picks and, who knows? I mean, it's the NBA, guys may want out. Who knows what happens if this whole Brooklyn thing is a disaster? Like, what if that happens? Like,
I think there's a pretty good chance that happens.
So if you're Houston, why not? Because Ben Simmons is the single best player you can get, but it does seem like Houston is already like, we're going to wash our hands of this shit. Because to me, the Covington trade showed their hand that they're tearing this whole thing down.
Which is why they are apparently talking about getting John Wall from Washington for Russell Westbrook, which is just like that's like the funniest possible thing I think that could happen.
I wonder if John Wall is cool enough that it would get James Harden to stay.
I could see it.
Because because obviously he's not stoked right now, but like if they got John Wall and it's like, you know what, Russ doesn't want to be there. I mean, I could see that maybe moving the needle if like, cause like, it does sound like John Wall is like back to being John Wall. I listened to Tommy Shepard on the Low Post last week, and he said that he's seen some film of John Wall, and obviously he's the GM, so he's going to be talking him up, but he did say that his athleticism is back. It looks like he's back. Some of the videos that we've seen on social media make it seem that way. And maybe that's something that gets Harden's juices going as like, okay, maybe I don't have to do this all by myself, and maybe we do have a chance, and maybe we can beat the Warriors if we have John Wall instead of Russ.
I could see it, and I actually think, if Wall is healthy, I actually think he might even be a better fit next to Harden than Russ was. So I could see it working. It's just there's a whole lot of ifs going on if John Wall is healthy.
They'd have the two best. I think they'd have the two best guys other than LeBron, like the two best guys when it comes to creating 3-point shots for other people. Like,
yeah,
they're the two best guys at creating corner threes for guys. They're the best guys at getting open looks for they're like two of the best guys period in the league. And a lot of teams don't have that. Like teams do not have multiple guys that are elite at creating 3-point shots. And maybe, they keep Ariza. Maybe they're able to make some signings on the periphery to try and keep him. I mean, it's not that crazy. And we've seen crazier things happen in the NBA because, like, obviously, like, this is what happened with Kobe Bryant. Like, Kobe wanted out, a couple of times, and the Lakers just said no. And Harden is a player, while not as accomplished with the championships, is a player in terms of, like, history and statistics, like, of the caliber of Kobe Bryant, wanting a trade.
It is, and he has the cachet to be able to force a trade, unlike somebody like Victor Oladipo, where people see him trying to force a trade, and we're just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Did you hear what Wendy said?
That like nobody wants him.
Yeah, nobody wants him. No, which like good. The whole league is smart. Shout out to fucking the whole league, because they realize that it's not. You do not want to trade for Victor Oladipo, which I think he heard that, and that's why he came out and said, like, I want to play in Indiana and all that bullshit. like he's clearly
trying to
lying.
walk it back.
Yeah, he's clearly lying, trying to manage his image, and because it took a hit. I think a lot of people were like, "What the fuck is going on with Victor Oladipo?" Like, I think people that either thought positively or just like didn't have any negative thoughts about him came to have some like negative thoughts and negative feedback and negative reactions. And obviously I think that also happened in the league. Do you want to
think it was because he thought like, he could come out and force a trade and everybody would be like, yeah, player empowerment. And it's like, okay, dude, you're not Anthony Davis. You're not James Harden. You're not like, I don't know who the last few guys are that have wanted to be traded or of that level. It's like, I think he thought that because he had that one all-star season, and I think he thought that he's at that level now, and he's not. And everybody was just like, dude, you don't get to do this. Yeah, no,
he finally, I think it finally clicked for him. And also I think that, the market made it click for him. Obviously, if he was going to get traded, it would have happened already because he wants so badly to be gone. But I think all of that hurt his trade value. And but speaking of value, I think we should talk about the Blazers getting the Robert Covington, the guy I feel like they've needed for a really long time, in a trade yesterday, taking advantage of Houston's crumbling situation. Like, this is just a classic Olshey pilfer. Like,
yeah,
like when
good job, Neil. This is a good, like, we've been very critical of Neil over the years for various things. This is just a straight up good move. I'm not really like thinking about either of those first round picks that much. I don't really care about that. But this is just, this is an upgrade at a position they needed an upgrade at, and it's a guy that's under contract for a couple years after this. So I think it's just, good job, Neil.
Yeah, good job, Neil. I think I wrote about it today on Blazer Banter newsletter. I think which you can go to at blazerbanter.substack.com. Subscribe.
You guys should subscribe.
But I wrote about it, and I think it's the best off-season move that he's made since the trade for Robin Lopez in 2013, where he got him for like a second-round pick and a trade exception. And where he gets a guy that was an impact player, instantly turns the Blazers from out of the playoffs to a top 4 seed that season. So I think Covington's addition has the potential to do the same thing for Portland. And he may not be as great of a individual wing defender or stopper, I guess, as Ariza, but I think he's probably just as good. And then he's a way better help defender, way better rebounder. He makes his teams better on the glass, and Portland's defensive rebounding was terrible this season. After losing Aminu, really, really hurt. And having Covington there is just like an improved version of Aminu, in my opinion. And then he's just a way more refined offensive player on top of it. And he's not afraid to take big shots. And teams won't like disrespectfully leave him open in the playoffs like they did with Aminu. So I think he's not the offensive player that Carmelo Anthony is in terms of creating his own shot, and maybe not even in the clutch that, the way Melo shot in the clutch for the Blazers, especially in the bubble, was pretty incredible. But Covington can also shoot in the clutch, and now they have that shooting plus defense, and he increases their 3-point rate. Like, I hate to sound like dunked on for a second here, but the Blazers shoot the ball so well, there's no excuse for them being in the middle of the pack in 3-point attempts for the last 3 seasons as they have been. And Covington's going to help them get out of that middle of the pack when it comes to getting threes up.
Yeah, and this is a good move. I don't really have anything more to say than that. This is just, Neil saw an advantage that he had. He took advantage of it. He upgraded the roster. What do we think about Rodney Hood opting out? Do we think he's going to be back, or is
I think he can be. They have early bird rights, so they can pay him up to like $10.6 million per year, and go over the cap on that. So they can still sign him for more money. I think he was due to make $6 million. So he'll probably get a raise in maybe a couple more years.
Does that cut into the mid-level
though?
Or is that like a non-bird?
No, it's a bird. It's an early bird.
Okay.
So they can sign somebody else at the mid-level, and then it's all about the order of operations.
Okay.
So like whenever they call it into the league, it just has to be done in a proper order.
The thing that Pelinka messed up with the Anthony Davis trade.
Right. So as long as they can get someone for the mid-level, they can also get Hood back because they have early bird rights. And then obviously I think they're going to extend Trent when they get probably pretty soon, when they can do that. And as soon as they can do that, and then they have a lot of options here. I mean, I think all the chips should be in. They still have the Whiteside cap hold that they can trade before the draft, and who knows? I mean,
they can't trade that before the draft,
or they can't.
No, he's a free agent.
Okay, so they could do a sign and trade though. Like say
if another team is trying to sign and trade for Hassan Whiteside, which
some people have put out there I saw Jabari Young from CNBC. He's just spitballing, of course, but he was saying, I mean, they could do a sign and trade for Whiteside and the Spurs for LaMarcus.
I doubt that happens.
Well, I mean, just saying they have Pirtle, but like, maybe they need another center.
I doubt that the Spurs are going to spend enough money on that to make that real. Like, how much do you think Whiteside's going to get in terms of a contract?
I think someone would pay him like $12 million a year.
I would not want to be the team that does that.
No, but I don't know if you're. I just don't know. I really don't know what Whiteside's market is, but if the Spurs,
I think Boston could be an interesting spot for him, but even then, like Nerlens Noel is a better option as a center on the open market that would be super expensive.
True. Yeah, Nerlens is probably going to get a lot of attractive offers.
That's a guy I actually wouldn't mind Portland bringing in for the MLE.
That would be nice. He would be a great backup. He'd definitely be an improvement on Zach Collins, in my opinion. I mean,
I don't get the Millsap thing. I think he's kind of washed.
Yeah, I get it in the sense that I think he did show that he can do some things a little bit. He can elevate a little, even though he can't elevate to as high of a level as he used to be. He can still get his game on a new level in the playoffs and play a little bit better. As long as he's like coming off the bench, I mean, with Covington now, and if they keep Hood, like you already have your starting five, like Millsap's not going to start. But if he's replacing like Wenyen, Gabriel, and Hezonja's minutes, I think it's great. I think it's a great move if they get Millsap for that role. I just don't think that he is. You can't count on him to be like one of your five best guys and win a championship.
By the way, Hezonja opting in is like the funniest thing that's going to happen this offseason. Opting into the veterans minimum, that's just like that's just an incredible grift by his agent.
Yeah, no, I am applauding it. I am absolutely applauding it. Congrats to Hezonja's agent, and congrats to Hezonja, and congrats to Michael Scotto for being the one that had the scoop on Hezonja opting in. We love to see it. Potential, I think probably the greatest potential person to have done the scoop on Hezonja.
Combination of factors there. Just love it. Just iconic stuff.
You love to see it. Like honestly, I'm surprised. Like in my mind, I have a Clutch Points graphic of that.
That's of Michael Scotto on the phone
with
tweeting out Mario Hezonja with like the bags of money.
Yes. Exactly.
Clutch Points has been kind of quiet the last couple of days. I haven't seen any graphics that have really like blown my mind.
I do appreciate that they're really NBA first. The Clutch Points guys, because like there's been a ton of football stuff happening, and they've really been pretty chill on any football stuff. And I think they're just taking a break. I think they needed a creative break. They need to give their incredibly powerful brains a break from the iconic art that they create on a regular basis. I mean, Milwaukee, they are desperate. We talked about Drew Holiday. I do want to talk about Milwaukee a lot because it's important.
Yeah.
The trade for Drew Holiday, an insane haul. The trade for Bogdan Bogdanović, though, a steal. Like, they get him for, I don't know, to me, pennies.
White Dante is basically.
White Dante, yeah. Sorry they lost White Dante, but, like, whatever. Like, Bogey is a way higher level NBA player than White Dante. And they also get an infusion of just big balls. And, like, Bogey has the stones to, like, take and make big shots, and so does Drew. I mean, they both have guys now that are not afraid of the moment. I mean, Bogey was the best player on Serbia's, even though, you know, Jokic was kind of not really all there. Bogey was the best player on the Serbia national team in China last year during the World Cup. And so he has he plays an incredibly high level of basketball. He adds some creativity, some kind of off the script playmaking stuff that he can do to take the pressure off Giannis. I love the Milwaukee trade for Bogey. Like, that was, to me, the combination of those two moves is much better than just the Drew Holiday move in a vacuum.
Yeah, I mean, but this stuff is always never in a vacuum. So, I mean,
right.
to me, they gave up a ton for Drew Holiday. They gave up more than you probably should give up for Drew Holiday, but I don't, like, obviously nothing can be official until it's official, but Stein reported this, Woj reported this, I've even heard a little bit through back channels. Giannis is taking the Supermax, and it's going to happen, like, this weekend. And so if Giannis takes the Supermax, if trading for Drew Holiday and showing him, look, we're going all in, we're trying to get better, we're trying to help you contend, whatever. If getting Drew Holiday gets Giannis to sign the Supermax, then you give up whatever, and then you pay Drew whatever as a free agent. Like, that's just, like, because if Giannis leaves, Milwaukee is Cleveland after LeBron left or something. Like, because then they probably will have to, like, trade Middleton and just, like, tear it down, and, like, nobody's going to go to Milwaukee. Like, if Giannis leaves,
it's going to be dark days if they trade. Yeah, if Giannis leaves. Yeah,
right. But if Giannis is actually staying, if he's actually re-signing, if he's signing the Supermax, if Giannis is, like, doing the Dame thing and saying, I want to play in Milwaukee for their whole career, you trade whatever for whoever that gets him to the point where he agrees to do that.
Yeah, and I think he probably told them, I want Drew Holiday, I want Bogdanović, like, I want and good on him. I mean,
Yeah.
they saw enough. They had 2 real playoff runs with this core group of guys, with Bledsoe, George Hill, Korver, all these guys that were the supporting guys out around Middleton and Giannis, and it didn't work. And they did even worse this year than they did the year before. So, it was very clear that they needed to do something, and they did it. They clearly were feeling the pressure of trying to keep Giannis there. I mean, I don't think it was immediate. I want to say this, it was not a media creation that there was pressure here, but Milwaukee's front office, credit to them, they have risen up to the pressure, and it seems like it's going to pay off and get Giannis, as long as it really does happen that he's really going to sign it, then all this was worth it, no matter what happens. Whatever the pick swaps are, whatever the trade, however many picks it took ultimately to get these 2 guys is all worth it, as long as Giannis says he's going to stay for 5 more years.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen some people make the point that, Giannis could still ask for a trade in 2 years, but okay, fine, deal with that when you deal with it. I think if they win a title in the next couple of years, that's not going to happen. If you're Milwaukee, you got to go all in when you can go all in. The one thing that does concern me, and you and I were talking about this earlier, is Milwaukee basically has no depth right now. It's their starting lineup, and I actually wrote this in the column that I wrote on BR about this trade, is Milwaukee's starting 5 right now is Drew, Bogey, Giannis, Middleton, Brook Lopez. That might be the best starting 5 in the league. That's
pretty lit. If I'm a Bucks fan, I'm hyped on that. You have automatically a great 5.
But it's going to be a similar drop-off to, remember that year that the Clippers, when they still had, Chris and Blake and DeAndre and, JJ Redick, where they had the best starting 5 in the league, and then their bench was, the worst bench in the league? It's going to, because, who's even, still, because they traded, Hill, they traded Bledsoe, they traded Ilyasova, they traded White Dante.
Wilson, they traded...
So who do they even still have? It's like Sterling Brown, and I'm assuming Robin's going to be back he opted out. I'm assuming he's going to be back on, a different deal. But, they basically... They're going to have to hope that a bunch of veterans are willing to take less to go ring chasing, which is a lot of a tougher of a sell in Milwaukee than it is in LA or Miami or Golden State.
They did get a lot of guys though. They have gotten guys to come on the cheap.
Right.
They got Wesley Matthews. He did, obviously it wasn't he was fine. It wasn't he was great, but he was fine at the minimum. They got him. They got Korver for cheap. They got they got Robin Lopez on a pretty good deal. They got, before, he got hurt and didn't play, but they got Pau Gasol. They can get those types of guys, I think, if they're on the open market. Maybe they bring John Henson home. I don't know. There's ways that they could do things to improve their team that probably won't cost a lot. Or, maybe they take the Robin Lopez money and go for Aaron Baines or
Aaron Baines would be great there.
Yeah,
he can basically do the same stuff as Brook Lopez now that he shoots threes.
Yeah, so then you just basically have no drop off, and you don't have to worry about, because Robin Lopez by the end of it was not even on the playoff roster. He was totally on the outs. I would not be surprised if he just doesn't come back at all. And they also have just this new team. Why not just try to fill the vet roles with different guys and just try a new way? I don't think it's that crazy for them. For them to just try some new guys at the minimum, because what they had, it wasn't anything special. So I think that they will get enough guys that are really good, want to win a championship, and would be interested in playing with Giannis. I think there's a lot of people that would do that. Now that Holiday is there and Bogdanovich is there, I think it makes it even more attractive for guys who are vet minimum type guys.
You could be right. Now, if Robin does leave, that's a guy. That's a new challenge for Neil Olshey. Bring Robin Lopez back as a backup center challenge.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome if they brought Robin Lopez home. Obviously he still has a place here.
It's literally bringing him home because he still lives here.
Yeah. So I would be down. I would be way down. That'd be super cool if Robin Lopez came home. But there's going to be a lot of options out there, I think, for the Bucks in terms of, guys that they can bring in and spend on. So they did trade a lot, but I do think that because they have such an attractive group and the 2-time MVP who's only 25 years old, like it's still going to be a good place to play, I think, for a lot of guys. So I don't think they're going to have a lot of trouble getting good vet minimum guys. Like maybe they get a Morris twin. Maybe, I don't think it's going to be that hard.
I have a dialogue that I need to start. We're all about starting dialogues. Actually, I have a couple of dialogues. While we're on the subject of the Bucks, I threw this at you earlier, but we think that Carmelo is not going to be back with Portland just because of various.
Well, the Covington trade makes him it makes
a little more expendable.
Yeah, it makes it like they filled a position that Melo played a lot, and if they're going to bring Rodney Hood back, which it seems like they are going to,
yeah.
Then
if Melo isn't totally just bent on starting, he would do a lot for Milwaukee off the bench. He clearly showed like he can still score. If they bring him in, he could average like 20 a game off the bench if he's like their sixth man. I could ring chase that way in the East. I could see it.
Yeah, I could totally see it. I could totally see Melo. Melo could fit in a lot of places as a bench scorer. Like if he's willing to. And I do think on a certain level he is willing to. And again, I've said this on the podcast before. He has said this. Obviously, what he says and what he actually feels are two different things. But I do think he wanted to prove that he would be willing to come off the bench for a team that has championship aspirations. And I think the Lakers are still a very realistic possibility because if they trade Kyle Kuzma, that's the biggest thing for me. But even if they don't trade Kyle Kuzma, like Melo has proved at least in this year's playoffs that he's a way higher level scorer than Kuz. But he's just not, I think Kuz is a better defender. So it just depends on what they're looking for as far as the Lakers are concerned. But I don't think it would be crazy if he signed with the Lakers because he might have a role and LeBron might say like, hey man, like I'm gassed. Like I need you to carry me for a while. Like I could see him being into that where it's like LeBron comes to him and it's like, hey buddy, I need you. And it's not just like he's jumping on the bandwagon to win it, to kind of win an easy ring.
Did you see that Kyle Kuzma deactivated his Twitter account?
Yeah. It's just too much Kuz dialogue.
Yeah.
We're just
the other dialogue that I really wanted to start.
Yes.
So from the other end of that bogey deal, what the hell are the Kings doing? B, the dialogue I'm trying to start now is free De'Aaron Fox.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Fucking A. Let's do that. Where are we sending De'Aaron Fox to?
I don't know. Literally anywhere is probably better than
Sacramento. Yeah,
Sacramento. Like that's just that whole roster. Like even after they're trading Bogey, like I don't think Buddy Hield is going to suddenly just be super happy there. The
Knicks would be sick.
Oh yeah, no, he'd be great on the Knicks.
The Knicks would be perfect. Like, could they trade the number 8 pick for De'Aaron Fox?
I don't think so. I don't think that gets done.
Probably not.
Get him somewhere. Like, I don't like to just say, hey, these small market teams, you need to let their superstars go somewhere else. But like
Orlando would be cool.
Ooh, he'd be great in Orlando. Actually, that's the wave,
dude. Orlando Fox, that would be really tight, and he could make them fun to watch. And like,
yeah,
maybe you do. I mean, God, no, they don't need. Maybe you do like Fultz and a bunch of other stuff, and and you just go with that. I don't know if that gets it done.
They won't. I don't think Sacramento wants to trade him, but I'm starting the dialogue just because, like, I like him too much to see him waste his career in Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were bad in the bubble too, and they just
they got a new GM and they still didn't fire Luke Walton. Like, just I don't.
Yeah, they're just weird and they're just really dysfunctional, and they're the Kings. They're still the Kings, no matter who the owner. Shout out to Jacob Greenberg from the Dis NBA who coined the iconic phrase that Maloof is a state of mind.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely a truism. Like, no matter who's running the Kings, they're always doing some Maloof ass shit. And I just don't see where they go from here. Obviously Buddy Hield is going to be there, but then Buddy Hield is still going to be there, but then he also doesn't talk to Luke Walton.
I don't know much about the guy that they hired as GM, but I think if they had kept Anjali World on as interim GM, this wouldn't have happened.
Perhaps not. Gosh,
this isn't even like a Love and Hip Hop Sacramento storyline at this point. This is just kind of sad. Like, it's not even fun that they're this incompetent. They're just like, And they were one of the teams. They were invited into the bubble. Like they were at least like trending positively enough that they got the invite to the bubble. And so we're thinking maybe they'll be able to.
Before the shutdown, they were. Were you at the game against the Blazers?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, that was. They were playing some of the best basketball in the league before the shutdown. Like they were playing great, shooting the three. Like, you know, Bogdanovich, Fox, and Hield were just all just clicking. It felt like. And then the shutdown happened, and then they were not the same. But yeah, I do feel bad for Fox. I just, especially with literally every team in the West, you have Phoenix, who's gotten significantly better by getting CP3. You have Portland, who's gotten better by getting Covington. You got the Lakers, who've gotten better. I think, you know, the Nuggets there's still a move that for them to make. I mean, the Clippers,
because they were in on Drew, and then they weren't able to do it.
Right. And the Clippers too. We haven't even talked about the Clippers. Like the Clippers still have a lot of moves to make as well.
Yeah. There's just a lot going on. I mean, it's going to be an interesting next week or so. And like the whole league is going to look totally different. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We kind of talked through the Chris Paul to Phoenix stuff on the last episode when it was basically reported as done. I think that's a good deal for both teams for what they were trying to do. I think the Suns are going to be a lot better. They're probably going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics and Hayward pushing their deadline. We already talked about that a little bit. There's not really too much, but I think one of the things about the Harden thing that we kind of missed is that he turned down a chance to be the first $50 million player. And like, that's pretty wild that he turned that down to not be there.
Isn't Dame making over 50 on the last year of his deal?
I think he was going to make it like sooner than Dame though.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think he probably looked at Tilman's money and was just like, hey, can he pay me $50 million? Like, I don't think I might not get that money.
Is it really a guarantee?
It might be like a Dodger. It might be like a Dodgers when they were owned by Frank McCourt situation where they literally like couldn't even make payroll. Or like the Wilpons, or like the Mets old owners after they got scammed by the Maloofs and they literally couldn't pay their players. That's kind of what we're talking about with Tilman.
Right. I am very empathetic to what James Harden is dealing with, considering he plays for Tilman Fertitta. The Nets would be so much fun. I think they have every reason to do everything they can to get him, as does every team. I don't know how much Boston is willing to put on a table. Like, are they willing to do 3 picks and 2 pick swaps? Like, I don't think Danny Ainge was really, even though he probably thinks that he's fine, like, I don't think Danny Ainge is really down to do that type of trade.
Haynes just reported that the Hawks are in play to acquire Gordon Hayward.
Oh.
That's interesting.
That would make a lot of sense. They have a ton of cap space, so they don't, like, they have the most cap space of any team. And
maybe
they
give
have
him back like Kevin Huerter or something. I don't know. A sign and trade deal is a possible route. They have the most cap space, can simply sign him to a deal if he decides to opt out. I'm reading through this. I'm sorry. This is a riveting podcast.
Sean reads the news.
They are interested in Rajon Rondo, which someone reported that earlier. That's That's interesting.
But it does sound though that like Rondo, I think I mean, the Clippers.
It sounds like the Clippers are kind of the front runner for Rondo. Which
I think
I'm into it.
If they give him the mid level, like that's a significant. That's like what if it's the full mid level, it's $9 million.
Neil Olshey is too cowardly to match that.
Right. I mean, I would love. I mean, the mid level for Portland's an interesting one. Like Jay Crowder would be an interesting fit. I think he would fit with the Blazers.
Yeah,
I think he'd be a nice fit with Portland.
By the way, was Jay Crowder still on that same contract from Boston?
I think he was until this year.
Because I just remember back when he signed that contract, that was like the thing that all the Celtics media people were just like obsessing over. You can't ever trade Jay Crowder because he has the most team-friendly contract in the league. So just pour one out, I guess, for that contract.
Yeah. Shout out to Danny Ainge, who signed to that contract in the Boston front office, I guess, for getting a lot of mileage, almost Honda-like mileage out of that contract in terms of good in terms of good PR.
That's a strong grift.
Yeah, dude. But I mean, Gordon Hayward on the Hawks, I mean, there's no reason for them to not do it. I'll tell you that much. The fucking Hawks need more talented players, and I am definitely not of the opinion that they're anywhere close to even being a playoff team yet. I know that a lot of people believe in the Hawks long term, and I get it with Trae Young. He's a really incredibly talented and player, and he produces at a high level, but he doesn't play any defense. They don't play any defense, period. And like, I'm not like I'm not sold on them as a real threat to make the postseason. But if they add Hayward, they're a little bit more serious.
How happy would he be there? Because Georgia just flipped blue though. So like, how happy is he going to be there?
I think Georgia has some pretty lax gun laws. Maybe he can coddle himself with that. Maybe,
is he a gun guy? I
don't know, but if he's super right wing, a lot of those guys are gun guys. I don't know. Like, I think it'd be funny. I think Gordon Hayward in Atlanta would actually be hilarious. I'm for it for that reason alone. That it would be kind of a funny, like Gordon Hayward in the Atlanta City jersey that says MLK. Have you seen?
He's
those?
like, hey, can I just get one of those that just says education reform on the front instead?
Yeah, exactly. He like asks for a different jersey.
Did you see? What was that? I mean, so the thing about the Atlanta thing, like, they're trying to make the playoffs, but like when you think about it, I mean, so if you think about, I mean, depending on how you feel about Indy, and I still think Indy's a playoff team because they were a playoff team this year, basically without anything from Oladipo, and if Oladipo is on his best behavior because he's trying to rebuild his trade value or rebuild his free agency value, like, I think they're still going to be pretty good. And if that's the case,
if his collaboration with Bjork goes well,
if it does go well, their duets. But so I think, like, from the way I'm looking at it, there is only one playoff spot up for grabs in the East because you've got Milwaukee, Toronto, Brooklyn, Philly, Boston, Indy, and there's one other team.
Did we say Miami?
It's like Miami, yeah, duh, yeah. Miami. They only just made the finals, and I just almost forgot them. But yes, that's 7.
Yeah,
that's 7 teams. So there's really only one spot for, the Bulls are trying to get better, the Hawks are trying to get better. Let's say the Knicks or the Hornets trade for Westbrook, they're going to be trying to make the playoffs. Orlando is still kind of in the mix because they've been like the 8th seed by default. If John Wall is healthy, then Washington's going to try to be in the that's going to be kind of it's going to be pretty tough. I mean, the West is sort of the same way because basically, even with Oklahoma City falling out, probably because they're blowing it up.
They're still going to be. I mean, the thing is that they're blowing it up, but are still going to be decent. Like,
but I think they're going to flip. They're going to flip Rubio and Oubre and like Danny Green at the deadline, though. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a Memphis situation like last year where it's like they had, they had Jay Crowder and they had Iguodala on their books for the whole season, but they were still good. And they got like, I'm not going to bet against I don't know anything about their new coach, but I'm not going to bet against Oklahoma City just as an organization. They're just, they're usually in the mix, and I don't,
But so here are the teams that are definitely in: Clippers, Lakers, Warriors, Denver, Dallas, Portland, Utah. That's 7.
Yeah.
So that means there's one spot for New Orleans, Memphis,
Phoenix. I think Phoenix is a lock, to be honest.
So that might be all in. Although I guess the thing is they are doing the play-in for the 7 and 8 seeds this year.
That's right.
So some of those teams, it might be like those are the 8, and then New Orleans and Memphis have a shot to get in, or it's those 7 in the East plus the Bulls, the Hawks, and whichever shitty East team trades for Westbrook, like, that are all in the mix still. Like that I'm actually like really into that. I hadn't even really given that much thought until right now when I'm kind of trying to handicap the playoff races, but that's like I'm actually like pretty pumped about that.
It's kind of crazy, because we have to do it all, like we have to do it like even before these teams are fully formed, because it's I mean, but I do think Phoenix has absolutely. Chris Paul is not making the playoffs. Like,
well, has Chris Paul ever not made the playoffs in his career? Maybe like 1 year with like the Hornets when like David West was injured or something.
Yeah, something like that. But no, Chris Paul's not. It's like, have you seen Big Little Lies?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, the Laura Dern character has a moment where she says, "I will not be rich," and that's
Right.
Chris Paul in the NBA. He will not be in the playoffs. So that's happening, and I think and Booker is going to have a lot more freedom, and I think it's going to make Ayton better. I think Ayton.
I was actually talking to somebody about this yesterday. Somebody who is no longer with the Suns organization, but was with the Suns organization when they drafted Booker and when they drafted Ayton. And this person was telling me that he thinks basically like this is going to be the best thing in the world for it's going to be like when Chris Paul got to the Clippers and then you saw how much better DeAndre Jordan got when you had Chris. Like, I think he thinks the same thing is going to happen with Ayton. Like, this is just going to be like the best thing in the world for him.
Oh yeah, and Ayton is way more talented than DeAndre Jordan.
Oh God, yes.
So yeah, like if it has any even if it's a diminished version of what he did for DeAndre Jordan, it's gonna have an impact on Ayton because Ayton is so fucking good already and so talented, reads the game really well, is a good shooter, good passer. Like they're gonna be fine, and I think they're gonna be great. Obviously, they have some. They have a good starting five. They're going to have some depth concerns, though. We haven't really talked about that as far as as far as the Suns are concerned. I mean, maybe they can keep Saric. They have Cameron Payne come back. Maybe it's not so bad. That's like a decent 7-man rotation. So I think they're in a good place. Portland, I think, obviously got way better, and but then there's Minnesota, New Orleans.
I don't think Minnesota is going to be that good.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to try, though. I mean, I get it.
They're going to try, but I think San Antonio is still trying, but I don't think they're good enough.
Right, and so they're going to try. Where's DeRozan going to go? Is he going to stay with the Spurs? Like, that's a really interesting he's a free agent, so that's a really interesting...
No, he's not. He opted in.
He opted in. Okay, I missed that then.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind. He's staying with the Spurs, unless they trade him, of course. But... Man, I mean, the Hayward to Atlanta thing, I think makes a lot of sense for them. I think also it gives the Celtics an opportunity to get a high pick that maybe they use in another trade, or they use to select someone.
Or they almost use it in a trade, and then they don't quite get it done.
Yeah. I don't have... a whole lot else to say at this point. I feel like we've covered all the moves so far that have mattered. I mean, we don't have to cover things like the formality of Anthony Davis and KCP both opting out. Like, we knew that was going to happen.
Well, I had like 20 minutes of analysis on Bruce Brown for Dazan and Musa with Brooklyn and Detroit, but we can save that for the Patreon. That's for the real heads.
I guess. I mean, what Detroit gets? They got a 2nd round pick, right?
I guess so. I think so.
So yeah, they get a 2nd round pick and this Musa guy because they're trying. I think they're like, we're not hearing a lot about it, but I definitely think Blake Griffin is being offered to a lot of teams right now,
and so is Kevin Love for sure.
Oh yeah.
So
there's just the Love thing. It was kind of like a Russell Westbrook, Victor Oladipo thing where there wasn't really a market, or at least a palatable market for the teams that have him. Like, Cleveland did not want to do any of the deals that they were offered for during the season for Love.
So hear me out. Russell Westbrook for Blake Griffin.
Yeah? And man, that'd be really depressing for Blake, though.
Yeah, it would.
Like
Houston.
Yeah, like...
Well, if Harden is not traded yet, then...
yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna fucking work. I think he'll fucking. I think Blake will not be very stoked to be on the non James Harden Houston Rockets with Tilman Fertitta as his owner. But I mean, Tom Gore. I mean, I don't know anything about Tom Gores really. So
Tom Gores has money. Tom Gores, can make payroll.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he did have Sterling, so maybe he's a little more hardened to having a shitty owner that he might not mind having Tilman Fertitta, because he did deal with Donald Sterling for the majority of his Clippers career.
So you want to come back and do a Patreon over the weekend because after the draft, after free agency, there's going to be a lot more stuff to kind of get.
Yeah. Maybe maybe we do an extra pod this week. Maybe we do one after the draft or something. If a bunch of shit goes down.
possibly we'll play it by ear. Like,
yeah,
we'll see. But yeah, definitely like this weekend we'll do that. So if you're not in the Patreon family, shout out to the family. But if you're not in the family,
shout out to our family. We love you all of you who subscribe. It's amazing.
Patreon.com/BullsVBlazers. It's $3 a month. You get an extra episode every week. It's a good value. You should do it.
Absolutely. It is the best $3 you could potentially spend as an NBA fan.
I agree. I'm biased, but I agree.
There's nowhere that you can get this much great knowledge. Sorry to interrupt again. And me interrupting Sean. You can't get that anywhere else for $3.
As always, you can follow us on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, anywhere else that there's podcasts. Subscribe, rate, review, all of that. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Highkin. Read my stuff at Bleacher Report. Eric, tell everybody else where they can check you out.
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Blazer Banter, where I do a lot of my NBA tweeting. If you want to see me tweet about other things, you can follow me at Erik_Gundersen on Twitter. And you can follow my writing at blazerbanter.substack.com, where I'm doing a lot of Blazer writing and analysis there. And also doing writing and coverage of LeBron James, the Lakers, and other general NBA stuff at LeBronWire.usatoday.com.
Yeah. So we'll be back this weekend with some more actual moves to discuss. Thanks for listening.